As musky anglers, we demand a lot out of our equipment. We're out in tough conditions. We demand a lot out of our batteries, especially with the trolling motors in today's boats. Today, I'm talking about my year-end review of the LYNAC lithium batteries that I'm holding right here. I ran them all year last year, and this is going to be my honest opinion of them and my honest review. In full disclosure, I am sponsored by LYNAC Lithium, so I do get the batteries sponsored to me, but I am in no way paid by LYNAC Lithium to say anything one way or the other. So you're going to hear all the good things that I found about these batteries, and I did have one issue last year, and we'll touch on that a little bit as well, just being completely honest. This is going to be a special episode because we actually have a Google Meet call that I had with Conor, the owner of LYNAC, and we kind of talked about some of the common myths or common misconceptions about lithium batteries in general. So it's not just specific to LYNAC, it's just specific to lithium and kind of what keeps people from going towards lithium. So I ran 3 lithiums last year. I ran 2 Group 24 120 amp hour batteries running my trolling motor. We're going to show you guys how I had that set up. And I also ran another one exactly like this, Group 24 size, to just run all my house electronics. And we're actually going to put these things on the scale next to the Interstate batteries that I took out. And this is no indictment on Interstate. That's what I have here. That's what I was using. And they're a very reliable battery. I went from Interstate to LYNAC, so that'll just kind of give you some context of why we're using the Interstate versus the LYNAC. So first off, they were great. The run time on these batteries is absolutely amazing. My brother-in-law has a cabin out on Eagle Lake, and we spend a ton of time out there fishing. And because he's on solar, we try not to use any excess power. So charging out there is always an issue. On a bright sunny day, no problem. But of course, you're out fishing during the day and you want to charge at night. So you're drawing his solar batteries down. So we try not to charge. Well, I've been out there for 3 days of pretty consistent musky fishing without needing a charge. And by having a shunt, which you're going to see a little bit later in this video, to monitor these batteries, 3 days barely even touches the 120 amp hour capacity of these batteries. So it was just, for me, it was a no-brainer to upgrade to lithium knowing you're going to have that reserve capacity. I know most guys charge at the end of the day so that they have fresh batteries the next morning. With lithium, you don't have to do that. They're actually happier sitting around that 60 to 70% rate of charge, and they'll sit there for a long time. So to go fish a weekend, and if I don't remember to charge it, I can go out next weekend and just a quick look at the shunt, which again, I'll explain a little bit later with Conor. I know I have tons of capacity, and it just takes out a lot of that guessing on whether you're going to make a day or not. The weight savings is huge. We're going to actually put these on the scale. Like I said, we'll do that towards the end of the video, but I noticed a little bit of a performance increase in my bass boat because we took a lot of weight out of the back of the boat. Every pound you take out definitely makes a difference. So that's definitely a consideration. And the fact that they charge so quick, if I'm staying out at my cabin and I come in from a full day of fishing and I forget to charge overnight, or I forget to charge over the course of a couple days and I'm going to head back out, I can plug the charger in, and in most cases it's like an hour or two and these things are fully charged again, ready to go. So the charge capabilities of them is definitely a bonus as well. They charge so much faster than conventional batteries, so I really appreciated that. Having this run all my electronics as a house battery was great. Prior years, I had another Interstate battery running just my house electronics, and it wouldn't last a full day without starting to dip down on voltage and my graphs would go out. I ended up putting in a Blue Sea smart relay so that I could charge it off of the big motor when it was running, and I was constantly struggling trying to keep power to run my graphs. I put one of these in and I'm good for a whole day. I'm probably good for a whole weekend without charging, and it was just peace of mind knowing that I had full power. And today's electronics, let's face it, it needs strong, clean power, and they do not like to be run low on voltage. All right, what issue did I have? An early batch of the LYNAC batteries that I got last spring had a small issue with a small percentage of one shipment of batteries. The BMS was actually shutting the battery down before it got to the preset threshold. Conor obviously sent me a couple new ones, and there was a few people in the area that had a similar problem. They replaced them free of charge. And it's one of those things with new technology like lithium, when there is a small problem, you look on forums or Facebook pages, etc., and people make a big deal out of one small problem, but you can go to a store and buy a conventional lead acid battery and have a bad battery. It just, with new technology, people always seem to point out the negatives. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the trouble that I did have. I had a couple trips on the water cut short when my trolling motor would quit, and we narrowed it down to the BMS in one of the batteries with Conor's help. And companies like this will stand up behind their product, and that pays to buy from somebody that you can go to and you can physically get product from. All right, let's go and talk with Conor, and then we're going to mix this up and we'll put some video in. I'll show you guys how I have this wired up in my boat. I'll show you guys the shunt that we're going to talk about, and how I use that to monitor these batteries, as well as monitor the batteries when they are charging as well. And then stick around to the end, because we're going to put these on the scale and we're going to do a little bit of a comparison on the lead acid batteries that I took out of my boat. Hey guys, I'm here with Conor. He's the founder and owner of LYNAC Lithium, and I just wanted to get him on a Google Meet here so we could kind of run through a little bit of the question and answer stuff that I get asked about running lithium batteries, and I know he does as well. They're kind of common questions. So just going off of the video that you guys are watching here, talking about the LYNAC lithium batteries in my boat, the biggest question I see, Conor, is chargers and sizes of batteries for trolling motors. So maybe just introduce yourself and let's just get right into those two big questions.
Sounds good. How you doing, everybody? My name's Conor. I'm the founder of LYNAC Lithium Technology. So yeah, one of the most common questions we get asked, how long my battery is going to last? How do I charge them? Most people will be surprised. If you have an AGM or a gel onboard charger now, you're more than likely good to go with that. The charge profiles are very similar. So if you're thinking about making the switch, just, check your charger. Min cotas are usually the way to go. Any min cota charger works. If we're talking about a 24-volt trolling motor, most guys are more than happy with 200 amp hour batteries, getting at least a solid day, sometimes a weekend. If you're a little more recreational, maybe a 260 amp hours in series, should have a good day on the water.
Okay, because I have an older model Bass Cat bass boat, I did have to do a little bit of changing to my wiring to get everything to fit. And the Group 24 batteries don't actually fit the Group 31 trays here, so I had to do a little bit of wiggling around. I have some straps holding them in, but you guys will get the picture. So I'll show you guys how I have it wired. So here's my two batteries, front one, back one. This little box here is, I don't know if you can see it in the shade. This is a battery balancer. This is another one I showed you guys on the bench. This is my circuit breaker, wired in, goes to the front. There's the charger right there, 20 amp charger. So that's essentially my setup.
When you're charging multiple batteries at 24 volts or 36 volts, the voltage of the battery can drift a little bit. So we like, just to be safe, we like to add external balancers. It just ensures the batteries are always the same charge. If you're not getting a proper charge in them, sometimes they can get offset and one will die quicker. So it's just a nice way to ensure that everything stays in line.
Another question that comes up all the time is, how do you monitor these batteries? So what's the best way for guys to monitor these batteries?
Shunt is the best way. It actually counts the energy going in and out of the battery. If you do get a Bluetooth monitor, make sure that it is run through a shunt. Like, for example, our BMS talks directly to Bluetooth, so you're getting the data right from the battery itself.
So hopefully you guys can see this little gauge right here. It says 119.8. That's how many amp hours I have left in my battery. And it is sitting at 26.54 volts at the moment. And right now, just with the power onto the trolling motor, it's drawing 0.346 of an amp. And what that is just the draw on the batteries. So when I go ahead and engage the trolling motor, it will actually show me how many amps the trolling motor is drawing while it's running. So I'll put it back on the gauge. And now I'll engage the trolling motor. It is on 3.5 or 4, and it's drawing 2.35, 2.37. And if I roll it up to 5 on the foot pedal on a Tarova 80, it's at 7.4 amps that it's drawing. Now the cool thing about running a shunt like this is that it tells me how many amps or how many amp hours I drew out of the batteries. I've been able to go more than 3 days and not draw those batteries down more than like 35 amp hours. So when I'm starting at 120 amp hours and I'm only using 30 or 35 amp hours, I still have so much capacity left. I could probably do another 1 or 2 trips without charging. And then the charger is actually hooked through there. So when I plug my charger in, I can see on the shunt exactly how many amps are getting sent back to the batteries. And because I have a 20 amp charger, it'll show 20 amps. I'll show you guys that when I get back to the shop tonight. But it's a great way to monitor your batteries. I can check it on the water, see where we're at. And if something happens or I get low power, it's easy to diagnose because I can see where the power is up here. So I know it's either a battery problem or it could be a trolling motor problem. Just a great tool to know how well your batteries are doing and just monitor them throughout a day. Okay, so now I got the onboard charger plugged in, so you can see that the symbol here is showing plus up. So it's actually putting power through, so the voltage or the available amp hours is going up. It is sending 20 amps from the charger to the batteries, which is correct because I have a 20 amp charger. And there's the voltage, so it's already up to 27.52. And the battery indicator there showing that it's gaining power. So if I leave that, it'll continue to flash until it reaches full power, and then the charger will shut off and the shunt will show full. So this will continue to rise until it reaches 120 amp hours, which is the full capacity of the batteries. Yeah, it's one of the things that I think lots of guys see is they already have a voltage meter on their boat, whether it's on the graph or a separate one on a USB output, and it'll read 13.1, 13.2. And guys are trying to use that as a bit of a ballpark. Is that reliable?
It's not super reliable. You can get away with it once you're familiar with how your batteries work. They're gonna basically read between 12.8 and 13.2 throughout the entire charge, basically 80% of the charge. So it does get tricky, but when you see it drop below 12.8, you know you're getting close.
Another question that I know guys have had is, what size of a battery should I run if we're going to run a house battery just to run electronics?
You guys have 4 screens, usually 100 amp hour, no problem all day. You're good with 100 amp hour dedicated for your electronics. Obviously you have guys going smaller to the 60. This kind of ties into the cranking battery. We offer 100 amp hour cranking battery, and we have guys using that all day for graphs, electronics, and starting. I usually recommend a little bit bigger, maybe going with 260 amp hours in parallel, or if you really want 200 amp hours in parallel, you're going to crank your engine with the same battery bank. You're going to use all your electronics on, charge from the alternator. It's pretty well the way to go.
There's something else that definitely comes up going back to the beginning, talking about chargers. And I see that going into 2023, you're going to have some new multi-bank onboard chargers. What's the pros or cons going that route versus what you have now, say the 24 volt charger that I have in my boat? Just maybe talk us through what the differences are there, Connor.
Yeah, there's a few different ways to go there. So if you're running a single 24 volt battery for your trolling motor, you're going to need a single bank charger. So we offer a 24 volt, 36 volt dedicated charger. If you want to run a multi-bank and charge your starting and electronic batteries too, that's a good option. You can do, 24 volt, 36 volt trolling motor setup using 12 volt batteries and charge all your electronics one charger.
Okay, guys, I appreciate Connor spending a little bit of time with us and trying to just kind of dispel a few of the myths about lithium. And I know one of the big things is weight, the weight savings. And I'm going to do part of this video. We're going to actually put the lead acid batteries on the scale versus the lithium. And we're going to see the weight savings that I have in my specific setup. And I know that's something that's a big seller with lithium. Obviously, for Connor, that's something that, they're looking at as a big benefit to the performance of your boat. So maybe just touch on the weight saving side of it, and then we'll kind of wrap this up, Connor.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time. Yeah, basically, you're getting twice the power with half the weight for the same size battery. So you take a Group 24 battery, you're going to get basically double the runtime, half the weight. 10-year life expectancy on these. Increased efficiency all around. So that's our selling features.
Okay, I appreciate it, Connor, and look forward to be working with you again in 2023.
Sounds good. See you then.
Okay, guys, weight is a huge issue, and it's a huge talking point when it comes to batteries. And I know a lot of the lithium companies, kind of like Connor had said, they're half the weight, twice the power. Let's see exactly how that compares. I got the old trusty whiteboard out again, and these specs are taken right off of the respective web pages. So I had interstate batteries in my boat prior to switching to LYNAC Lithium, and I had 3 of them, 2 for the trolling motor and 1 for my house electronics. So the interstate SRM 27, which is a pretty standard trolling motor battery, is listed at 50.3 pounds and is listed at 88 amp hours of capacity. The LYNAC Group 24 size, which I have, is listed at 29 pounds and 120 amp hours of reserve capacity. So already off the top, the difference in the amp hours, this is about 30, I think it works out to about 37% more power in the lithium. So you start thinking about using them over the course of a weekend, and 37% could be an entire day more capacity that you get. And then you factor in the lithium's flat discharge rate versus lead acid's discharge rate of, a falling graph. And we all know what it's like when your trolling motor starts to get slower and slower at the end of the day. So let's get these things on the scale and see exactly where we're at. And just so there's no issues here, I got my GoPro out, and I'm going to actually add the footage of the weight in when I write it down here. Okay, guys, let's start with the interstate Group 27 size. All right, get the GoPro on. All right. I'm seeing 51.4 on that one. All right, so that's for the interstate. We'll zero this out again, and let's do the LYNAC. Get the GoPro on. And I am seeing 28.8 on that one. So the listed values are really close. Obviously, interstate is just a touch heavier, and the LYNAC is pretty much dead on. Okay, just using some real quick math, just rounding that to 51, rounding that to like 29. We're seeing the difference of about 66 pounds. So 66 pounds of difference just based on the batteries alone. And yeah, that's 3 batteries, but for some of you guys running the 112 volt big trolling motors, you're going to save 66. And then if you change something in your house battery, you're going to change that much more. So it's all relative to the amount of batteries you're going to change out. But for the average guy, even just changing 2 of the batteries out, you're going to see the difference of like 40 odd pounds, which, yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but it all adds up. It gives your boat a little bit more performance, and it's easier to handle these batteries, easier to get them around. So I was kind of surprised. I thought this number might have been maybe a bit higher, but the LYNAC isn't exactly half of the weight of those, but it's real close. So that definitely matters. And it's something that I know a lot of guys talk about, is just the pure weight difference. So one more thing on the weight. Next season, I'm going to be switching over to a lithium starting battery as well. So I should see another increase of about 21, 22 pounds difference between the starting battery that I'm using now and switching over to lithium. So now we're getting up into that, closer to 90-pound difference. That's the difference of a child or a teenager or a small adult in your boat. So that can make a difference. And like I say, every little bit helps. I want to thank Conor for coming on and doing that little bit of a question and answer with us. Hopefully that's helpful to some of you guys out there. If you're trying to make the decision on switching over to lithium batteries, for me, I wanted to go that route prior to even having any contact with Conor at LYNAC. So happy we've went that way. And I know for me, moving forward, whether I'm paying for them or I'm sponsored by them, I'm definitely going to be running lithium in all my boats from this point out. And for you guys at home, if you're thinking of switching up to lithium, go to LYNAC Lithium. There's a link in the description below. Use the code 54bus and you're going to get 10% off your order. And that's today and every day. Switch up to LYNAC Lithium. I know you guys won't be disappointed. And for a video where you're going to need the power of lithium dealing with wind in northwestern Ontario, check out the video right here where we talk about musky fishing through wind conditions. That's where the power of lithium comes straight up to the top. And until next time, 54 Bus is out of here. We'll catch you guys out on the water later.